is not only a marbitz Torah and maamad talmidim besugyas hashas v'orchos chayim, but he is also from the Ma'atikei Hashmua, being ma'orer thousands of b'nei Torah and choshev balabatim in the derech ha'mesorah that he was mekabel from his great rabbeim, u'berosham hishver moron Rosh Yeshiva Rav Shneur Kotler u'lemala b'kodesh. It's a schus for us to have Agoin Rav Uren Reich shlita, Rosh Yeshivas or Zechariah, to be meroimim keren Torah v'loimdeha.
Looking at this incredible asifa, mitzad echad, at tzibur godel v'choshev of bnei Torah, bochrim yikorim sheiktim b'Torah, yungeleit amelim b'Torah, v'alroisham Gedolah Torah v'yira. One cannot help but think of the posuk, Vayhi b'shuren melech, Malchus Shamayim is felt in Klal Yisrael, V'his asef Rosh Yom Yachad Shiftei Yisrael. But Rabbi Sai, there's another posuk that comes to mind. V'af gam zois, v'yosam v'eretz oveim, Klal Yisrael, in a land whose values are hostile to Torah, whose environment is foreign. Loi ma'astim v'loi giyaltim l'chaloisam lahofe brisi itom. In the middle of the Second World War, Tammuz Tovshin Beis, July 42 l'misporam, Rommel Yamach Shmoy, the legendary Nazi war commander, was making strides in Africa, and it seemed without a doubt he would conquer Egypt and from there move on to Eretz Yisrael, Rahman al-Islam. He seemed invincible. He was known as the Desert Fox. The pachad and the fear that gripped the Yeshiva in Eretz Yisrael is indescribable. The Charedische Yidden, Sliches v'tachnunim ta'nesim v'hishtatchus al kivri tzadikim, was oile al koma shahoya b'Europe kaidem ha-milchama. There was nothing to compare to it. It was considered by the Chachamim of the time to be a given Rahman al-Islam, that there would be a Holocaust in Eretz Yisrael, leipoches from what was going on in Europe. Hagoyin Reb David Soloveitchik, Zecher Tzadik Livrocha, would talk about the tremendous hisayrus of that era. In the Meir Shorim Shtiblach, in Shiva Asa B'Tamuz, there was an Asifas hisayrus, and at that Asifas hisayrus, the Lutzke Rov, himself a recent poet from Europe, said Divrei hisayrus. Reb David Zecher Tzadik Livrocha said, miyomov loy koidim v'loy achekach, was he ever magish of azman and amokim of his iris of such intensity. The Lutzke Rov hat gerät, der Olam hat geweint und geschrien. Und beseichat Worim, mir Revis Eures, der Lutzke Rov hat gerissen, der Pareiches von der Oren HaKodesh, und geschrien bekeulis. Rebbeinu Shleim, du hast doch gesagt in dein Torah, Va'av kam zois b'yesam b'yeretz ivem, loi mi'astim v'loi ge'altim. Das ist loi mi'astim. Das ist loi ge'altim. V'go kol ha'om b'bchia. B'chaste Hashem Yisborach, Rommel was repelled, and in the famous Battle of El Alamein, he was pushed back completely, called back to Germany, poisoned, never heard from again. Kein yevdu kolivecho Hashem. But I'd like to say a few words about the ha'ora of the Lutzke Rov. Vu is the loy ma'astim, and vu is the loy ga'altim. On this posuk, there's a Teiras Koinim, which the Chizkuni quotes, Dvorim Mavhilim, that only Chazal HaKadoshim could ask such a kasha. Loi mi'astim, v'loi ge'altim, v'chi loi nimasu v'loi nigalu, v'halei kol matonis teves shenitnu liYisrael nitlu mehem. What does it mean when we say mius and gil? Rahman al-Itzlan, when there's a period, shreklich a period between a man and wife, the man calls back all the matonis that he gave his wife. And they ask him, what can you do with them? It has nothing to do with what I can do with it. Ich kann nicht sovel sein. I can't, it revolts me that there should be a maskeres of Ava there, which is now a mokum of sinner. That is ma'astim and that is ga'altim. Zogen Chazal, the Gemara in Tainus says that when HaKadosh Baruch Hu gives, he never takes back. HaKadosh Baruch Hu doesn't take back any matonis tevis, he just locks us out of them. Zogen Chazal, there's not a matana teva that we had that we haven't lost. We had nevuah b'bayis rishon, and b'bayis sheni, the Kohen Gadol b'yom HaKippurim, Zok Meir Simcha, was korev lemadregas ha-nevuah. We don't have it. It was taken from us. We had Simchas Beis HaShe'eva, Shemishama Yushevin, Ruach HaKodesh, Nitlu Mehem. We had Korban Tmidin Asher Aleim Oimet Kol HaOlam, Lehoya Odom, Lom B'Yerushalayim V'chet B'Yodoi. The Tmidin were Mechapa, Nitlu Mimenu. Fragen Chazal, is that not Ma'astim? Is that not Ga'altim? And Chazal answer with a dovo neira. Which matana does the husband call back first? The most precious gift, the one that talks of the greatest ava and intimacy, that's the one he wants back right away. What is the greatest gift that speaks of our closeness to HaKadosh Baruch Hu? The Torah HaKdosha. Kudshe b'richa v'eraisa v'Yisrael chadhu. Wouldn't it be logical that Chalila, the Torah, should take back first, before anything else, the Torah HaKdosha? Zogen Chazal, that HaKadosh Baruch Hu knew, Shel Mole Sefer Torah Shenishtaya Lahem, Loi Hoyu Mishunim Misha Ha'umayis Klum. Our Klal Yisrael, without a Beis HaMikdash, is paralyzed, but we continue to live. A Klal Yisrael without Nevuah, without Urim V'Tumim, continues to exist. So Achas, without Torah, there's no Klal Yisrael. And Hashem is Baruch Chasod of Agdolim would not allow the Ma'astim or Ga'altim of taking away the Torah from us. Chazal are teaching us a new pshat in the Posuk. Parshas B'chukoisai tells us that the Hanhogas Hashem is Baruch with Klal Yisrael reflects our Hanhoga. Telchu imi bekeri, elech imochem b'chamas keri. Yanu beyan b'mishpotay ma'asu. U'b'chagoysam go'ala nafshi. You act with me as begil. Then there has to be ma'astim u'ga'altim. But right away the Torah says, Oba va'af gam zeis. B'yesam b'yeretz eiveim. While they're suffering ma'astim u'ga'altim. Lo ma'astim v'lo ga'altim lechaloisam. I will never allow a ma'astim and a ga'altim that takes away the neshama of Klal Yisrael. Il molei sefer Torah shenishtaya lahem. Loi hoyu mishunim mishara umeis klum. Is moisiv the chizkuni. Bi'al zeh yosad ha-paiton. Rabbeinu Gershom oira geila. Bismano he said the words which we say in Slichas and Ne'ilah. Ha'ir ha'kedesh v'ha-mechuzais. Yerushalayim and the mechuzais hayu lechepo lebizais. They are desolate and wasted. V'chol machmadeho and all the precious treasures, tevuos ugnuzais, are sunk and hidden from us. Ve'ein lanu shir rak ha'Torah zeis. We still have the Torah. And when it comes to the love of HaKadosh Baruch Hu for Klal Yisrael, which is misgala in Torah, this will never be taken away from us. The Gemara in Chagigah in Daf Hey teaches us that as HaKadosh Baruch Hu treats us in the time of Golus with a charenaf, there are two hanhogas. One is b'mistorim tivke nafshi. HaKadosh Baruch Hu cries, al ga'avoson she'Yisrael she'nitla mehem. He sees the pride of Klal Yisrael, how we've been crushed. And then the Gemara says there's another anhoga. Oiz v'chedva b'mkaimai. Life goes on with a simcha. Oiz v'chedva b'mkaimai. What's the yishuv? The Gemara says, ha b'boti broi, ha b'boti gavoi. Rabbeinu Chananel there, the Lakewood Rashi, learns b'boti broi. In the outside world, b'mistorim tivka nafshi. There HaKadosh Baruch Hu witnesses tzah, charinaf. This is not Klal Yisrael the way it should be. But b'boti broi, in the inner houses, oiz v'chedva b'mkaimai. What are those boti broi? Rabbi Sale in Yonenu. The boti broi mimoyim shechorev bis hamikdash. Ein leila HaKadosh Baruch Hu ba'ilamai elo daled ames shel halacha bilvad. In the Sha'arim Amsiyonim ba'alocha, where Yidna amelim b'teire b'chol koichem yom v'layla, there the hanhoga is oiz v'chedva b'mkaimai. Like a couple, lahavdil, who has a tremendous stress and period when it comes to the chasna of a child, mitamol, oiz v'chedva. They love this child. They don't want to share his simcha. The anhogas Hashem is baruch in the Olam HaTorah. Dot loy ma'astim v'loy ga'altim oiz v'chedva b'mkaimai. And hashkochas Hashem is baruch on the Olam HaTorah is nike b'chush l'chol mizbeinen. Even in the last tekufah, we hear from people who were standing by the levaya of Reb Chaim Ozer. Hey Menachem Av Tov Ein l'shai ve'ein l'tzayir. Avion shel Yisrael. The lave of Klal Yisrael. And he was nifta after being almost below layers for everybody, for the tzayirchim and tzrochim of Klal Yisrael. And he was nifta at the beginning of the war. Hey Av Tovshin. Yidden stood by the levaya with a shivrin lave she'ein kamoyu. But the Olam HaTorah, for them, this was an aveda she'ein lo chalipin. Reb Chaim Ozer had spent his last 20 years being megadol the Olam HaTorah, be'ava, be'chiba, b'mesirus she'ein lo shia. And he was doig for them all this last kufa. And now the question was, al mino tashtot sein. Was wird sein der Osid von der Olam HaTorah in such a shas akona? 6 years beforehand, Reb Shaya Karelitz, relatively unknown, the Chazon Ish, left Vilna despite the haftorahs of Reb Chaim Ozer and other Gedolim. He was daita in a chusha to go to Eretz Yisrael. Hashem Yisborach planted b'hashgachosai the Adirei Hatorah Bavel, who was there when the Olam HaTorah left Poland and Lithuania and made its way to Eretz Yisrael. The sapling Olam HaTorah, the sprouting of the Olam HaTorah, the yeshivas, the kolim, was tachas yodei achazokah of the Chazon Ish, ba'avosai u'b'chemlosai, ba'hadrochosai u'b'hashgachosai. Is that not lo ma'astim v'lo ge'altim? During the war, the Kovner of, the Mirror of, and other Rabbanim were killed ba'ofen achzorius neiroi, Hashem yinkim domov. And ba'oise shah, the Briskerov, the Chizek Tzadik Levrocha, with a few of his children, made their way to Eretz Yisrael. Could anyone realize that from this small group of people would grow such a hashpah of habotas haTorah, l'doir l'doiris, alofim and alfei alofim? Is that not lo ma'astim v'lo ge'altim? Rav Shimon Skop, Zecher Tzadik Livrocha, is Kan Rosh Yeshivas, maamad Torah for well over 50 years. Hundreds and thousands of Talmidim. When he was nifta, Rubam Kakulam were killed. There seemed to be no netzchiyus to the Torah of Rav Shimon. Hashem Yisborach planted b'hashgachosei Elyona, Tzeir shebetzeirei Talmidov, Maron Rav Shmuel Rozovsky, made his way to Eretz Yisrael b'hashgacha ployes before the war, u'misham hushtas Teiras Rav Shimon, Teiras yeshivas, Talmidim, Talmidei Talmidim, Talmidei Talmidei Talmidim ad hayom hazeh, v'oid yodam netuya. Is that not lo ma'astim v'lo ge'altim? Reb Nachum Zemba Zecher Tzadik v'kodesh Livrocha, Hashem yinkim domoi. He and his Torah Akdesha, Ksovim Nifloim, Nisrafu Ba'esh, Gvilin V'oisius. His Mechuten, the Chabina Rov Zecher Tzadik Livrocha, Ba'ofen Ploy through Siberia, made his way to Eretz Yisrael to be part of the beginning of the Pricha of the Olam HaTorah. The yeshivas, Bryansk, Malch, Grodno, Branovich, Kamenetz, Telz, were nerag ba'echzorius neiro. The Pe'er yeshivas, the Mir Yeshiva, b'derech loy derech she'ein elei muven b'tivius, found its way thousands of miles away to Kobe, Japan, and then to Shanghai in China, of all places. And there in Shanghai, Blei Malin and Motel Ginsburg, Zechrein Livrocha, and younger Bochrim, Reb Nochem Patsovich, Reb Shmuel Brudny, Reb Shmuel Bimbom, Reb Abba Lodger, Reb Leibel Bax, V'oid, haben gelernt Torah, ba'asmode Gedolah. Hashem Yisborach was ensuring that there'll be habotas haTorah for the coming Dikader, besoich the Charinaf, as it was b'mistorim tivke nafshi, oiz v'chedva b'mkaime birochik in Shanghai in China, of all places. Loi ma'astim v'loi ge'altim. Gedolah Yisrael were nerag ba'achzorius. The Rosh Yeshiva Rabbanan Zecher Tzadik Livrocha, at the time that Hitler and Rommel were threatening the kiyum of the whole world, and Klal Yisrael befrat, the Rosh Yeshiva made his way through Japan, San Francisco to New York, and around that time started a small yeshiva with 14 bochrim. V'advorim porim v'robim, ba'ofen she'i efshel l'tayr v'i efshel l'shayr. Lahach yois am rav kayom hazeh. The maamad nifla that we're witnessing today is all a result of the hashgacha elyona of HaKadosh Baruch Hu helping the Rosh Yeshiva Rabban to leave the Eretz Hadomim. Rabbi said, "Das is lo me'astim v'lo ge'altim, oiz v'chedva b'mkaimai." But what we have to remember is that the same way that Hashem Yisborach knows she'il moli sefer Torah shnishtaya lahem, lo yoyim mishunim mishah ha'umeis, Klal Yisrael weiß das sehr, sehr gut. and throughout the Deiris, mesirus nefesh, b'shas charin afshal HaKadosh Baruch Hu, Klal Yisrael is omel b'Torah mesirus nefesh. Nechshavnu katzoin latevach yuval, laroig, laabed, lemakol, lechapa, ubechol zois, shimcha lo yishachachnu. We say Krishma, Babeika u'be'erev. Babeika is Merames on Gedolah. Be'erev, the Gemara says, Avas Olam Ahavtich is the Nevuah of Yirmiyah, Shas HaGolis. In the nights of Golis, we're also Mekabel Malchus Shemayim. In the Hakdama to the Krishma Shalavis, we say, Moira de Keveta. Rebbeinu Shleilim, you know, but we also know. Ki heim chayenu. Our life depends on Torah. Uvahem, nega, yemam v'layla, whatever the Laila gives us, we will be Isaac v'Torah, yemam v'layla, and you, Rebbeinu Shleilim, v'avoscha al tosir mimenu le'elamim. It's amazing to be mimik. Chazal say, Av chochmosi omdoli, Shlomo HaMelech said, Torah shelamadati ba'af, hi she'omdoli. How much of the Torah of Klal Yisrael, the Torah that we're hoiker by Yomam v'Layla, was nischabe b'mei hadomim u'b'mei charei nafshel HaKadosh Baruch Hu. Talmud Bavli was written b'mei tzah, b'machshakim ha'yeshivani k'meisi elam, zeh Talmud Bavli. Rabbi Seinu Bali HaTosfos, we know, was nischaber in the time of the Crusades, Greiser Redifus Hadas, Harigas and Shmodis. Shuvas Maram Rutenberg we have from what he wrote while he was in prison. And Taka the Miri Yeshiva. The Miri Yeshiva is a oisam oifus for unsere Dor. Bochrim, who 2 years before wouldn't have known where to find China on a globe, were niglam imekaimam and found themselves rochik in a place that was foreign, very difficult and very hot, and there in Shanghai, sie gesessen und gelernt, basmode Gedolah v'atzuma, ubechol zois, shimcha lo yishachachnu. There was a Talmud Chacham Muflig in Manchester, moved to Yisrael eventually, Reb Gedalia Rabinovich, a Litvish Talmud Chacham. And he was once talking about what it was like when he was a boy. He sat in Minsk. He said the children had a shema by the door. Amezet the Yevseska. They came running in and they told Rabbeim to hide through a different door. And he was describing the mesirus nefesh v'metamogalant, the mesirus nefesh of the boys in Minsk. Ad K'dei Kach, he said, there were bochim that were sent to prison, and for some reason the goyim allowed kosher food to be sent to them. Ze gebeten that they should be gepekelt in Blätter Gemara. Rab Lezer Minsker, the Edom of the Minsker Godel, hat Mati given b'shvil bitula zehu kiyuma, to wrap the food in Blätter Gemara. Kedei am soll kennen lernen, v'chol zois, shimcha lo yishachachnu. My Shver Zecher Tzadik Livrocha once said he witnessed something that was ever so moving. The Chevron Yeshiva in Yerushalayim was an ear miklot for Bnei Torah from Europe. Shortly after the war, Rosh Yeshiva Rav Shneur was standing and two bochrim, beginning Bobekama, sich gekochten lernen of the Rosh von Eitz Orach. Goes on every Bobekama's man in every yeshiva. A bocher from the Vitins was standing and listening to them, and he burst out crying. A polit from Europe. Und hat gegeben ein Geschrei. 6 Millionen Jiden sind gestorben. Und man kocht sich noch in der Eitz Orach, in der Rosh, als ob es gar nicht geschehen. Das ist der netzchiyus von Klal Yisrael. Ich kann mich nicht einhalten. I have to read to you the words of Reb Chaim Oizer, Ma'ora es halev. He brought out his sefer, Mi Kamoyu. His lave was throbbing with Avos Yisrael, with achrayas for every tzibur of Klal Yisrael. B'chol mekemes Moshe V'seim. And shortly after the First World War, a time of great tiltul and tzar, he brought out the Achiezer Chelik Aleph. Chelik Aleph, Achiezer, anyone who's learned Yevamos knows, Wiffel Torah liegt in der Krach. And Reb Chaim Oizer writes the following words. Machshavas tuga, misreitetzes bekerev leiv cheshiv. A thinking individual has to have sad and depressing thoughts. Ha'im shas chirim kazais is a time of such destruction. Mechuvona lohitzoa svarim lo'era olam. Is this an appropriate time to bring out svarim of pilpul? Halo yishal hashoyel. We're allowed to ask. Am Yisrael tevea b'yam shel d'mois. Va'atem ayim shira. You're Isaac in Torah as though nothing's happening. Mahaseinu u'machrivenu mibayis u'mechutz. From out and in is merames. Chaytrim chatira tachas yeseidas haTorah. They're endangering the kiyum of Torah. B'chamorim muralim with poisonous gases of mefaitzim. Boim lekakeas abira kula. They're trying to bring down the whole kiyum of Klal Yisrael. Ve'atem boim lefire es eicholov b'tzatzuim u'prochim. And you're putting up flowers, yeshuvim of Shvere Rambams? Heichel Hashem kulei boya be'eish. Halahava ochses arena kodesh. Haluchas va'gvilim mushkoim be'eish. Ve'atem is asking bekishet pirche kechemet. Yesh lonu avzokin. Let's hear how Reb Chaim Oizer talks to Klal Yisrael. Ulom zeh koyach Yisrael sabel elikov. This is the koyach of the netzchiyus of Klal Yisrael. B'chol ha'deiris u'b'chol ha'tkufas v'azmanim. Gam k'shecherev chado hoisu manachas al tzavorov. Teiris Hashem hoisu shashuv kol hayom. Gam beis ha'chuben. Gam, as he continues, yavne v'chachomeho. This is the netzchiyus of Klal Yisrael. Through every phase of the night of Golus, we say Krishma, and together with that, we're maktim ki hein chayenu v'yerech yomenu. We're living in a different tekufah than the charanaf of previous deiris. But gam b'deirenu onu, it takes madregas of mesirus nefesh for the yungeleit of Adirei Hatorah to be moisa atzmam l'Torah b'chol koicham. A bocher abal kishrin is zeicher to wachsen and lernen. Hat chasna, and a year or two after the chasna comes an isoyin, and isoyin shloi hoya b'deiris hakaidmin. Not because they were greater or not greater. There was no opportunity. He's suddenly ripped with the spirit of entrepreneurism. My koiches, my kishroinus, my yegia, my capacity for focus, my mind, my understanding of people, I can use this to become not just a gvir, a multi-millionaire, a cholim, der fantasiert. It's ken sein amol. It could even happen. You know what an isoyin that is? And what do so many yungeleit of Adirei Hatorah do? They say to themselves, no. Labris habet, v'al teifen la yetzer. My koiches, my kishreines, my rotzen liknis kinyonim. Ich will keine sein Nashim and Nezikin mit jeder teisves. Not just the beginning of Yevamos. Ich kann euch a rabbi. I want to know how to be mater agunis. I want to know how to learn mikvois. Erevin, v'oid, v'oid, v'oid. This is the millionaires and the billionaires of the Adirei Hatorah. There are so many noises to distract the younger man. Ambitions of all kinds, accomplishments, college degrees, various accomplishments, all kinds of things. And the yetzer says to the younger man, "Geh sitzen im Winkel, you're just going to sit there quietly, be Isaac b'Torah." What gives our yungeleit, our Adirei Hatorah, the koyach to be oimed b'nisoyin? They say the Krishma shel avis, v'yohavto es Hashem lekecho b'chol levavcho, mit the ganze koyach harotzen. ובכל נפשך, mit der ganzen Koich von mesirus nefesh, ובכל מוידך, ich gebe weg alle Kinyonim, והיו הדבורים האלה, אשר אנכי מצבך היום על לבבך. This is my rotzen, this is my Gewirrigkeit. Taka steht in Chazal, im Matoisekein, Ashrecha ba'olam hazeh, v'tov lecha la'olam haba. Ashrecha für den jungen Mann, was versteht, als Ashrecha ba'olam hazeh, v'tov lecha la'olam haba. How appropriate that we're coming, like Rabbeinu Yenin says, we heard before, to be mechazik ourselves by giving cover to these Bnei Torah who are resisting all hashkofas that veer away from your habet, Hashem lekecho, b'chol levovcho, b'chol nafshcho, b'chol moedecho. To the mishpachos of these Bnei Torah, to their children, I'd like to say a word, if I may. There's a moshel, I heard it from Reb Leib Lapi and B'Shem the Chavetz Chaim. I think it's fairly well known now. Chavetz Chaim said a beautiful moshel. There was once a simple Yid in a shtetl. He'd never left the shtetl, didn't know anything about anything. He was a poor man. But here he had a wealthy uncle in Africa, South Africa. He became a multimillionaire. His chaverim told him, you can't live the good life in shtetl. You have to go to Varsha. You have to go to a big town. How do I get to Varsha? You take a train. I don't know how to get on a train. I'll help you. They help him to buy a ticket. He buys a first-class ticket. They show him the first-class compartment. He feels very uncomfortable. He's an uncouth, uneducated man sitting among all these businessmen. He's not at home. He goes from the first class to the second class. Still not good for him. Goes further and further and further. At the other end of the train, he finds a bench, a simple bench. Post schleppers sitzen auf the bench. They pay a few groschen to get the right to sit there. Oh, this is my oilum. He sits there. Shortly afterwards, he hears the conductor going around. Tickets, tickets! He quickly slides onto the bench that he shouldn't be seen. The conductor pulls him out and says, show me your ticket. He takes out his first-class ticket. The conductor says, shlita, why are you hiding? You have a ticket. He said, I don't have a ticket to sit on this bench. Hat der Chavetz Chaim gesagt, that's if a person lives the life of Torah and he's chaimed for the world outside, he's daimer to that shtetl yid. The Mishnah says in Ovis, Al tis'ava l'shulchan shel sorim, shulchancha godol mishalahem, v'kisrecha godol mikisrom. This is what this maamad is coming to tell, not the Bnei Torah themselves. Everyone who's connected with them, to understand the glik of Ashrecha ba'olam hazeh, v'tov lecha la'olam haba. Rabbi say, I was told and asked, not necessary to speak bechlal about the Keynote Address, just speak about the Bnei Torah. I don't know whether it's not necessary. I think Chayvus Derech Eretz dictates differently. But one way or the other, Hashkeit loy uchal. It's always heartwarming when we see a shutvis of Yisachar and Zvulun, a Ben Torah, a Talmud Chochem, together with an Oshir. Beautiful. But when we talk about such a shutvis of Yisachar Zvulun, so many Choshev B'nei Torah Tamid Chachomim, Yisachars of such quality, of such stature, together with Zvuluns who are giving Michainam v'yosem Michainam, staggering figures, $86 million a year, Kedei lechabed B'nei Torah. Rabbi say, I want to share with you a magnisa that the Chassam Sofer is Megala in Parshas told us. Chazal sagen, smach zvulun b'tzeisecha v'yisocha bo'yalecha, hiktim ha'kosev zvulun yisocha. Zvulun steht before Yisocha. Fragt the Chassam Sofer, magshun oilam. Zvulun is greater than Yisocha? Chazal steht, Kol hanavim lo nisnabu ela lo machzike Talmud Chochem atzmoi, ein leiros elikim zelo secho. Zogt dich sam Sefer, a moedike Wort, a lomdische Wort. He says, what is a shutfus? A shutfus is an expression of two people who are inadequate as individuals, and therefore they have to come together. One man, Reuven, says, I know how to make beautiful coats, I don't know how to sell them. Shimon says, I know how to sell coats, I don't know how to make them. So we'll get together, we'll make a shutfus, toiv li v'toiv lecho. Zok dich sam Sefer. The Yisachar is greater than the Zvulun, without a doubt. What is the Yisachar saying in the shutfus itself? I want to learn Torah b'mnucha. It means so much to me. I need a Zvulun that will help me to learn Torah b'mnucha. Beautiful. What is the Zvulun saying? The Zvulun saying, I have Momen, I have Oisha, I have Tanugim, I have Kovet. I want Shaykhus with Torah. I need to have the connection of being Mischamim B'uren Shel Tamidei Chachomim. In the Shutfus, what the Zvulun is saying is greater than what the Yisachar is saying. Smach Zvulun b'Seisecho b'Yisachar b'Oyalecho. Rabbi say, I once heard from a Goyen Rav Moshe Hillel Shlita. He was speaking about the Amolige tekufah, and he said the Rosh Yeshiva Rav Uren had so much that he wanted to do b'shvil Klal Yisrael. He needed people outside the Olam HaTorah to help him. How many Yechidim at that time understood the preciousness of Rav Uren Zecher Tzadik Levrocha? There were a few. Rosham, Rav Irving Bunam, Rav Leibel Tziviak, Rav Melech Tress, Rav Moshe Shera, Dr. Bodenheimer, the Klein brothers. And then Rav Moshe Hill said in a candid moment, he asked a lot from them. They gave unstintingly for whatever he needed. And then he said, what they gave to him is infinitesimal compared to what they gained from their shaykhs with Rav Uren. They were nisreimim legamri. They became different people. The impact, aleim, v'al zarom, al bneim, v'al bnei bneim, is deiris olam. This is the Zvulun who understands to have a shaykhs with Yisachar. Rabbi say, we don't have a Yisachar like Rav Uren Kotler. Mohammed das nicht. You read this Adirei. But my Shver Zecher Tzadik Levrocha, the Rosh Yeshiva Rav Shneur, Magle Bepuma Maimar Akadmoinim, and the way I always understood it, this was not just a mimer that he repeated. He lived with the chizuk of this mimer. It gave him the strength for the incredible oil that he carried. At Sibbe von Lomdim und von Bnei Torah und von Tamidei Chachomim hat a koyach wie a Gedolah ador. Each yochid alone is not a Gedolah ador. But a tzibur of Bnei Torah is a Gedolah ador. Our Yeshiva Lakewood, our pride and joy, a tzibur von tziburs von Gedolah ador, hanishma kezeis in the Prosta America, soll sein yungeleit, Bnei Torah Tamidei Chachomim, who know ganz Erevin be'ian Godel with every guy Yankiv and Chazaynish, who know ganz mikvois, be'ian Godel, who've learned Tyrus, Kodshim, Kol Mikzayas HaTorah you can find in Lakewood. Doa Chabura HaGodel Ador, Doa Chabura HaGodel Ador, Nocha Chabura HaGodel Ador. Is it any wonder that the Zvulins of the Adirei Hatorah are prepared to give of themselves so much to be able to have a shaykhus with the Gedolah Hatorah, the Adirei Hatorah that we have in Lakewood, among them Taka Yechidim that are Karav L'Madregas Gedolah Hatorah. Meirav Rabbi say, there's a phrase that we hear very often quoted, and if I may say, misquoted, Torah u'Gedolah b'mokim echad. Anyone who learns the Gemara in Gittin sees quite clearly that this hardly ever happened in the history of Klal Yisrael, 3 or 4 times at most, And it happened for a specific reason, Ein Shom B'Maram Shif. HaKadosh Baruch Hu does not want the Gedolah in Torah to be the Gedolah in Gedolah. Imagine Rabbi Yashiv would have been Yerush $400 million. This would have been a tragedy for Klal Yisrael, that he should have had to give away from his moyach, from his koyach, hiro, teirosai, bishvil to be sharing out money. No, the Baal Torah has to stay in his lane, and the Baal Gedolah has to stay in his lane. But if there is a Torah u'Gedolah b'mokim echad, it's when you have a mokim echad under one umbrella, under one roof. A tzibah comes together for one purpose. The Zvulans and the Yisachas come together for v'ahavtas Hashem Elokecha v'hoyu advorim o'elas o'anechi metzavcha hayem alevavecha. The Torah and the Gedolah is b'mokim echad. That's what we have here tonight, Rabbi Say. Torah Gedolah b'mokim echad. Rabbi say, if we're talking about Torah Gedolah, let us not forget the Gemara in Chulin Daf Tzadi Hey, Meiridike Gemara. Choshkani bochem, HaKadosh Baruch Hu says, I love you, Klal Yisrael. Shebizman shani mashpia lochem Gedolah. When I give you nobility, when I give you oisha, atem mamatin atzmechem lefonai. You're capable of belittling yourself. Bishvil kvoid Hashem, kvoid HaTorah. The story is told of Rav Uren Reich, a ish nichbod, a ish choshev, whose dveikis in Rabbaran, na'ava for Rabbaran, which was reciprocated, lo yoda gvulis, and yet, l'shvochayi omeh, he never lost the hagosha of es Hashem Elokecha tira l'Rabis Talmidei Chachamim. Rabbi Yosef Rosenblum Zatzal said that he was once in the room when a nichbedike balabos put his arm around Rabbaran, friendly gesture to say that he's going to help the yeshiva. Immediately, Rabbi Uren Reich took his hand and took it away from the Rosh Yeshiva, and he said to him, Al tigu b'mshichai. This is the Rosh Yeshiva, this is the Gedolah Adirei. Rabbi Uren Reich, it's told, once came to a chasna, and he saw me rochik, the Rosh Yeshiva Rabbaran. He ran over to him, and he took a look at Rabbaran's shoes, and he saw they weren't shining, they were dusty. And he said, Nein, Rosh Yeshiva, nicht das ist nicht gekauft HaTorah. And the Olam says that he went on the floor and with his jacket, he cleaned the shoes of the Rosh Yeshiva. Das ist mamaten atzmechem lefonai. You did Lakewood a bilti nishkach, Rabbi Yomen Finkelstein Zatzal, who was a help to Lakewood she'ein leshir, a maritz to Rabbaran Zatzal, ba'ofen mavel. Le'ezik Nusa, he once said to me, you know why I have koiches shalela fi shneisai? He lifted up his two hands. Weil die zwei Hände haben meshamish gewend der heilige Rosh Yeshiva b'nei monest. And then he told a story. He once went to a wealthy man to collect money for Lakewood. He knocked on the door, and from the window he heard a gruff scream. What do you want? He said, I'm coming to collect for Lakewood Yeshiva. The wealthy man, no less, set his dogs on him. He had to run away. He felt hurt to the core of his soul. And he said to the Rosh Yeshiva Rabbaran, Ish nichbod Finkelstein, was kommt mir als solche Bezienes? Why do I deserve such Bezienes, such tzar? He doesn't want to give, soll nicht geben. Hat der Yeshiva gesagt, was redet ihr Binyamin? Ihr weiß nicht der Chazal? Yecheskel ben Buzi, shebizo atzmai, al divrei Torah, ashrecho, hat zeichen gewinnt, als Madrega. Re'ed va'apela. We have in the Adirei Hatorah, gevirim nichbodim muflogim, that b'derech ha'olam would be celebrities, and they said, give them shulachim for Lakewood. They knock on doors. And kederech ha'mshulachim, they get bizyenis, and I'm all grace of bizyenis. And I'm sure they can't help thinking sometimes, Maliu letzora. Why do I deserve these bizyonis? Here tonight, the Adirei Hatorah want them to hear the Baskel, the Rosh Yeshiva Rabbaran saying to them, Ashreichem, Yechesku ben Buzi, shebizo etzmei al divrei Torah. Rabbi say, if we're talking about Achzok Torah, Ike Chosim in our Sefer, if we don't mention the greatest Achzok Torah, was is doing alle Deiris über the Reinu Onu, the Nesheiseyim shel Tamidei Chachomim. They marry young yungeleit before their Gedolah Torah, before their Abonim Chashuvim. The minteren leguvrayu adosi b'mevid Rosh, they wait with mesirus nefesh u'ba'amelis that the husband should grow to what they can. We, Klal Yisrael, are mechuyev hakoros hatov to these Nashim tzidkonius asher bil adam lo yehoya olam hatorah b'Klal Yisrael. Rabbi say, the night of Golus is long. And I want to share with you a moshel that I heard from my aunt, Sarah Magulis Alei Shalom. She heard it from Moshe Schneider Zitzal, who heard it mipeh Kochi of the Chofetz Chaim. Meirdik. The Chofetz Chaim had the tilt as our Maisa, a moshel. There was once a king who had a bas yechida, who loved this child, Kanafshay. The child was taking a stroll in the park on Sunday afternoon, and there were a lot of noblemen and noblewomen there. And she fell into a pond, and she was almost drowning. And everybody could have saved her, but each person said, I don't want to get my clothes dirty. I don't want to, so I'm uncomfortable, I'm not jumping in to save her. One man saw a child drowning, he jumped in and pulled her out. Chofetz Chaim gesagt, the king made a thorough investigation. Who was there? Who could have helped? Who could have taken out my daughter and didn't do it? And he was managed them. And for the person who saved his daughter, ein Reich to the schar and to the ave the Melech gave him. Hat der heilige Chofetz Chaim gesagt, Yova yoim bekorev, Mashiach wird kommen, and HaKadosh Baruch Hu will look back, my daughter was drowning. My Torah, my bas yechida was drowning. Who was ready to do whatever it takes? Who was prepared to be miyageh b'Torah b'kol kocham? Who is prepared to give staggering amounts of money kedei that my Torah shouldn't drown? The Eibishter wird helfen us. Adirei Hatorah wird kennen zogen zu HaKadosh Baruch Hu. We were there to be matzel your bas yechida, and we're committed to doing more and more kedei that the bas yechida of the HaKadosh Baruch Hu should be bria lachlutin. Rabbi Sai, I'd like to conclude with a Chassam Sefer, beautiful Chassam Sefer, and a Medrash Rabbah. The Chassam Sefer explains Psukim in Rus, Bederech Remez, based on a Hisofer to a Zera Kodesh, and I'd like to be myself a little bit. The Chassam Sefer says, we know from Chazal that HaKadosh Baruch Hu will be Goyal Klal Yisrael regardless, whether they're worthy of it or whether they're not worthy of it. Zog the Chassam Sefer, the side of Gedolah is a gather of Geulah's Krovim, as we say in Slichas. Geulah's Krovim, Korav Hashem L'chol Kairov, when HaKadosh Baruch Hu is Goyal Klal Yisrael, not in the Ezchus, Geulah's Krovim. When Klal Yisrael is Oisik B'Torah and they deserve it, Machmas Tuv Ma'aseim, it's a Hechra Dage from Kurva, Odom Korav Eitzel Atzmoi, Ki Korav Elecho Adova Ma'oid, Beficho Ubelvov Kol Ha'aseisei. Zog the Eibishter, V'ata Omnom Ki Goyel Anoichi. I am a Goyel regardless. V'gam Yesh Goyel Korav Mimeni. There's a Goyel that could be even more Korav than my Gedolah. And what is that? Lini halayla, stay with me throughout the night of Golus, don't leave. Bilon bo'umke shel halacha. V'hoya ba'boker, when the time of Gedolah comes, im yigolech toiv, if the toiv of your meisim will be goyal, is gewaldig, yigol. V'im lo yachmetz legolech, u'ga'alti chanechi chai Hashem. Is there any two words that more accurately depicts what the maamad of Adirei Hatorah is? Lini halayla. We're not letting go. We'll be in America, we'll be in Shanghai. It makes no difference. We're holding on to the Torah ad haboker. Lini halayla. Rabbi Say, I'd like to share a medrash. In conclusion, this medrash is Ma'ira Filalev Ha'evn. The medrash says on the posuk in Eicha, Zeis Oshiva Libi. Klal Yisrael moans for its tzoros and golus. But Zeis Oshiva Libi, there's one thing that I take to heart, and it helps me. Al Kain Oichel. I have what to hope for. What is that Zeis? In Pashtus, it goes on the next posuk, Chasei Hashem Kilei Somnu. But the medrash says, Dvorim Nifloim. There was once a melech, the medrash says, who married a queen, and he wrote Miroiv Ava, a document, a ksuva, kama chupas ani eiselach, kama agavnes teivas ani neisenlach. And then the melech left. The Eicha, it took a long time to come back. And the Shechina said to this queen, your husband is not coming back. He's given up on you. But when she went into her house and she opened the ksuva, she felt the ava of the melech, and it gave her chizuk to stay loyal and true. Liyomim boa melech, omelo biti ani toma, I can't believe it. Heichim tamtli kolois nashonim, omro lo yadoni amelech, ilmole ksuva meruba shekasavta v'nasatali, kva ibduni shchenaisai. Kach oivdei kechovim millionaires Yisrael v'oimrim lahem. Gibakuk. Elekechem histe ponov mikem, v'silik shchinosim mikem, oidei nechayzer aleichem. Crusades, tachtat, zeres, Nazis, Hamas, oidei nechayzer aleichem. V'heim boichin. Kiven shenechnosin labot knesius labot midroshes. They go into the Boti Gavoy of the yeshivas and the kailim, and they see the Ava throbbing from HaKadosh Baruch Hu to Klal Yisrael. Ve'freisi v'nasati mishkoni, he misnachmim, zogen chazal, le'mocha k'sheyovoi keitz agula. Rabbi say when Mashiach will come, oimelem HaKadosh Baruch Hu Yisrael, HaKadosh Baruch Hu wird zogen, kinderlich ich chapis peiles, bonai ani tome michem, how did you hold on all those years? If it wouldn't be for the Boti Gavoy, if it wouldn't be for the Abbas Hashem that's Nigle in Torah, if it wouldn't be for the Asik and Teifen of Kivega, Kvar Ibduno Ha'umas. Zeis Oshiv El Libi, Ein Zeis El Torah. Shenema v'zeis ha-Torah. V'chein David Oma, lulei seiroscha shashui, oz avadati b'oni. Al kein oichel, zong chazal, meyachtim shmoi shtei pomim bayayim v'oimrim shma Yisrael, Hashem Elokeinu Hashem Echad. Throughout the night, we're waiting patiently, and we're saying, v'ahavta b'chol levavcha b'chol nafshcha, ובכל מועדיך, דבורם אלה, מצבך היום, על לבביך, אהבוסך אל תוסר ממנו. And if we continue to be kaira Krishma shel Avis, be'emuna u'ba'ava, we'll be zeicha b'mheira to hear the koil mevasa v'oima, Rabbi Seinu higia zman Krishma shel Shachris.